Hi, my name's Cordy, and I must confess I got a little complacent there and kind of just assumed that my video editing software would kind of, put the audio in videos when I've included audio. That's the dream for me, really, that I could just rely on my video editing software. But for now, that's not reality that we live in. And so it appears that occasionally I'm just going to upload a video with no sound, and that's something that I've got to deal with. That's a burden. I'll try not to do it again. Sorry. Today I wanted to talk about Body and Soul jazz tune. Yeah, so I made a list, didn't I, about a couple of weeks ago, where I've made this shift from practicing and learning a new tune every single week to focusing on a few, maybe like 24 tunes, but trying to master them so they're like falling off a log, more like sort of like I was playing something like Autumn Leaves, if that makes sense. So I don't know if you're like me, but for me there's some tunes like Autumn Leaves which I don't really have to think about at all when I'm playing. I'm just playing the music, and I wanted to get a bunch more tunes like that, so I made a list. So Body and Soul. So I'll talk you through now the lessons that I think this tune can teach us and the way that I'm thinking about it, and some of this analysis will be on Patreon, and I'll probably put together some chord melody stuff like I did for my favourite things, if that's helpful. So I'm thinking of this tune in D flat major. We start on an E flat minor, a tune won't always start on chord 1, if that makes sense. So oftentimes you'll have to kind of follow the tune into its natural home, if that makes sense. So here's where I think we get to home. So we have this E flat minor, so I'm thinking of that as chord 2. So this B flat major is basically the dominant of that minor chord. So for a second there we're implying that we're in this E flat minor kind of tonality. That happens quite a lot in jazz. So just going between that E flat minor, that B flat major, and then an A flat. You can alter that, and then we arrive at our D flat major, which I suggest is kind of the home for this song. Then we go to this G flat major, so chord 4, and then chord 3, then this kind of weird chord which is a diminished, but one way to think about a diminished chord is as being built off the third of a dominant 7. So for instance we've got this E diminished, which is actually the same as C7 flat 9, if that makes sense. So that's how I would think about that when I was improvising over it. So where did we get to? Then E flat minor again, so chord 2, and then sort of a rundown. Then a minus 2-5-1 basically. So this C minor, flat 5, and then, although I'm not actually playing a flat 5 there because I've got the melody note in the top, so it would be, so I could put that, and then then an F7, and then a B flat minor, and then a 2, and then 2, 5, 1. So where do we get to? And then we hit that B flat major again, and we repeat that whole section again. And then you could okay, so we've got the same thing happening again there. So that gives you an opportunity to kind of introduce some variation, or it means that you've got a chance to kind of not worry about learning a load more material, if that makes sense. So where you've got repeated sections in jazz tunes, which happens quite a lot, you could kind of think of that as a bit of a brain rest maybe, if you're kind of new to the tune, or you could think about it as an opportunity to do a few more different voicings and stuff. But yeah, basically it means that you've not got another chunk to memorize because there's a repeat section. So then what we end up doing is modulating up a half step to D major with a 2, 5, 1. So an E minor, then a A, then a D, and then we've got this E minor again, then a D in first inversion is what I play, then a 2, 5, 1 in F major, then back to D in first inversion, then B minor, E minor, A, D. So what was that again? So and then we do a thing that happens quite a lot in jazz, where if you end up on your 1 here, D major, you can turn that into a D minor, and that ends up being a 2, 5, 1 in the key, basically one whole step below where you were. So you're in D major, turn that to D minor, the 2, the 5, G, and 1, the C. If that makes sense. Sorry, anyway, I got carried away there. So we got this part in C major. So we start on a D minor for it, so chord 2. So 2, 5, 1, and then I'm treating that, because it came from this diminished side of the fence, and I'm just calling it like a B7. It's how I would improvise over it as well. Then a D minor, then a G, 2, 5, 1, and then a little rundown to B flat major, and then we're back to our intro again. Not intro, our A section. So what I'm actually thinking of in the tune then is I'm thinking of an A section which is pretty much in D flat major the whole way, except for that little passing chord, which is kind of just reinforcing that E flat minor. And then I'm thinking about that B section where we've got moving between D major, and a little bit of F major, and then that C major section. So that's what I'm thinking of when I'm playing this tune. I think for me it helps to try and keep things a little bit simple, and by just thinking in a few kind of keys rather than thinking of each and every chord as it passes, I think I'm able to connect things a bit better and to remember the tune. And I'll try this on the fly now and let's see if it works. But say we were going to try and play this tune now in C major instead. So we're going to move everything a semitone, which is kind of more difficult than it sounds. Although it's physically just shifting a fret, all your visualization stuff is a little bit different. So we're going to start it in C major. We're going to start on chord 2. Whoops. And then we'd be modulating up to a D flat major. Then C sharp minor. Then and then we need to get to there. So. as you can see, obviously that was shaky, but I've never played that song in C major before, and I was able to kind of hack my way through it, and if I'd done that a couple of more times, that would start to feel a bit comfortable. So by simplifying the way that I'm thinking of it in my head, as sort of 2 or 3 keys with these little passing bits and pieces, I'm able to get through it a bit better. So as I said, I'll try and put up some sort of like chord melody stuff on Patreon for how I play the A and the B section, which might be helpful, it might not. So yeah, if you're into the kind of jazz playing I'm doing, if you could call it that, and you want to play body and soul, then on my Patreon there'll be the chord melody. I'll put together a backing track. Hopefully that's vaguely useful, and I think, I think I'll try and do this kind of thing more if this is what's helpful at all. I think there was a fairly good response to the my favourite things video that I put together. So let me know in the comments if this is useful, and you want me to continue doing this sort of thing. There's a buy me a coffee link in case you got something really useful out of it. But only use that if you can afford to, and if you, yeah, as I said, got something out of it. This is a guitar made by Andy Manson, and it's done using the Seth Backus kind of body shape, but it's pretty cool, pretty nice that I get to have a little play on it for a while. So I'm going to be recording a few standards and stuff on it. But yeah, thank you for stopping by, and I'll catch you for another video soon. Cheers!